Hey guys, Joe Tunney here at Honda of Seattle and Toyota of Seattle, taking a look at one of my personal and probably everybody who sells cars for a living's favorite cars to sell, the Mercedes Gelandewagen. And it's known in civilian applications as the G500, and it's also known in its military form, which is more widely known as the Wolf. Now, they say in sales, there's two things that you never, ever want to talk about, and those two things are politics and religion, but they're both very, very important to understanding the history of the Gelandewagen, so we'll dive in a little bit. The Gelandewagen was actually conceived of in the early 1970s by the Shah of Iran. And the Shah of Iran, a very, very wealthy man, was a major shareholder in Mercedes, and he wanted a vehicle design that could go anywhere, in any circumstance, with anybody chasing you, and it would win the race no matter what, every single time. And so, as a man with big pull in the company, they decided to go for it and build this vehicle. They spent pretty much the entire year of 1973 testing the car out in the Arctic Circle, through coal mines. They spent abundant time in the Sahara Desert. They wanted to make sure that no matter what the circumstance, this car would live up to its billing as that go anywhere, get away from anybody kind of vehicle. And it came out in the late 1970s. The Pope Mobile became very widely known around the world. The Pope Mobile used to be a Toyota Land Cruiser, Pope Paul VI, up until 1978, and he actually used a Land Cruiser. Pope John Paul comes around, and in 1979, adopts the Gelandewagen as his vehicle of choice. After an assassination attempt that people my age will widely remember, he wanted something fully enclosed, and so you can imagine that plastic little apartment that he was in that stood up about 4 or 5 feet above the roofline of the Gelandewagen. Well, that was his vehicle of choice. Whenever the Pope showed up anywhere, he was showing up in the Pope Mobile. And so they call that vehicle, that first one, the Papa G, and it is in the Mercedes Museum to this very day. Now, this is a 2006. All 2006s are known as a Grand Edition. In 2005, they were kind of saying goodbye to the G Series. That was the last year that the G Series would be sold in the United States. And so as kind of that final edition, they called it the Grand Edition. Navigation, nice stereo, heated everything, lots of nice amenities. However, it was so popular that they kept building it in 2006, and in 2007, and in 2008. In fact, they still make them to this very day. And they haven't really changed that much, 292 horsepower, 5-liter engine. Let's take a look around this particular car. This one only has 60,000 miles, so for a 2006, very attractive miles, but more significantly, it's also in very attractive condition. Beautiful colors, nice polished front bars, nice matching side bars, a beautiful color scheme. And let's come take a look around inside. Front seat, fairly spacious, fairly accommodating. Not entirely modern, but again, this is a car that dates all the way back to the 1970s and hasn't changed all that much since the 1970s. One neat feature, the 3 buttons in the center console. This car has not 1, not 2, but 3 different locking differentials. You're not going to be able to name too many cars that have 3 locking differentials. Taking a look in back. Well, it's certainly not the most spacious car in the world, and it doesn't tend to be any particular kind of family car. It's always been kind of that executive who has it all dream car. And one of the reasons that salespeople like selling them so much is that the kind of folks that tend to buy Gelandewagons tend to be those tough negotiators, and they're going to get things their way. Of course, we're a one-price store, and so if you don't like our price, then that's going to be a problem right out of the gate. But we know our price is particularly attractive. This isn't the kind of car that we sell every day, and of course, we're right next door to the Mercedes dealership, so we can't monkey around with it. But at the same time, we understand the kind of person that it is that we're dealing with. Well, after all that tough stuff, at the end of the deal, you can guarantee that the customer who buys this car is going to have about a 10-foot wide grin on their face, because really, this is what that I've achieved. I've done it. I've always dreamed of having one of these, and today I finally get to take one home. Let's take a look in the back. Big, heavy rear door, especially with the rear tire mounted to it. Everything about this car feels that way, heavy. It should feel heavy. It weighs 5,500 pounds. It is a particularly heavy vehicle, but it actually drives. It's a pretty lively driver and a pretty decent handler, all things considered. It's a big square inside, so although it doesn't have a ton of interior space, it's very effective and very usable space. Tonneau cover. You also have the CD changer in the back. Tow receiver. It's all set up for tow. In fact, it'll tow 7,000 pounds. Taking a look along the passenger side, again, it's obviously a particularly beautiful vehicle. It's not like anything else sold in the United States, not like anything else sold in the world. In fact, it's as long a history for Mercedes as any full-size vehicle they've ever made, other than the Unimog, which is sold worldwide. They're larger scale vehicle, but again, it's a pretty neat thing. For a vehicle that dates all the way back to the 1970s, and very little has changed since then, it's still incredibly impressive. I'm going to jump back inside. Let's turn it on and take a listen. Reasonably quiet. Obviously, you have acres of headroom and shoulder room. It's a very tall vehicle, and I think that's part of what makes it so impressive. It's just visually very exciting when one pulls up. And if you've experienced seeing people drive around in G500s or even G55s, there's the AMG variation of this truck. It's always like, ooh, someday I wish that would be me. And then when you sit in it, it's like, I think I could be really happy in this for a long time. It's a spendier car to deal with. Obviously, it's an older, kind of an exotic scale of luxury car. And so when things go wrong, they're definitely more expensive than what we sell here at Honda and Toyota. One of the differentials, for example, had some kind of leak. And you want to make sure that a car like this is right for the next owner. Well, that little leak sets us back about $3,000, our cost at the Mercedes dealership, thanks to our friends next door at Mercedes of Seattle for making that right for us and for our valuable guests. But it is a different kind of price range to get stuff done. This windshield has a crack in it, and of course the windshield has to come from Germany. It's not something that they've got down the street at Safelite for $200. It comes from Germany, and it's $1,000. And that's just the real world of owning a vehicle like this. It's extremely impressive. This particular car, especially now, is in wonderful, wonderful condition. Has a little door ding on the spare tire case, but I mean, other than that, it's actually in marvelous original condition. And for a click under $50,000, actually represents a pretty good value. Geländewagens have been getting very, very well received in the marketplace, the secondary marketplace, for the past couple of years, and they tend to be appreciating, especially with lower miles like this one has. And in fact, they've been appreciating fairly substantially, fairly rapidly. And as you see fewer and fewer of them on the road, they just become that much more valuable. The new alternative to this is well over $100,000, and they keep making them. And the reason they keep making them, of course, is because they keep selling them. If you have any questions about this particular G500, please don't hesitate to give me a call. Again, my name is Joe Tunney. I'm the pre-owned director here at Honda of Seattle and Toyota of Seattle. Feel free to reach me anytime at joet@hondaofseattle.com.